Can you hear me well? Because the AC is on in here. That's okay?
I can't even tell.
Okay, good. Woo! I'm all ready to go. Whatever, Jess. Do you think you're a perfectionist?
No.
What's a perfectionist?
I know the answer.
Did I already tell you?
Mm-hmm.
Well, what is it? What do you remember?
It's something about, obviously wanting things to be perfect, but the interesting thing was that you don't do things if you don't think you'll do them perfectly.
Yes, very true.
So, you like things to be so clean that you feel like you don't clean because there's no way you could get it clean enough.
Exactly. Very good, Jess. A+ answer. Hi, Lena Kate.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm good. I'm doing good. How are you guys?
Really good.
Good.
I appreciate your support.
Yeah, of course. I'm seeing a therapist now, via Zoom. And one or two sessions ago with her, she was saying some stuff that was almost exactly what you were saying.
Look at that.
Nice.
Kind of slightly different ways, but almost the exact same thing. And I think actually, yeah, we've definitely talked about perfectionism too. So
You think you're a perfectionist?
yeah, definitely have some of that.
Yeah. I think we all do to some extent.
She just she played a clip of a woman who wrote Eat, Pray, Love.
Yeah.
Talking about one type of perfectionism of fear.
Mm-hmm.
That what people say is they dress it up as perfectionism is just, being afraid of failing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's why we procrastinate when we're perfectionists.
Yeah.
Because if we did it and we failed, that just proves that we're not perfect.
Right.
So we tend not to do anything.
Right.
I don't feel like I've ever had a conversation in therapy that hasn't ended with a discovery that I'm afraid of something.
Yeah.
It always comes back to that.
What are you afraid of?
All sorts of things.
Yeah. Can you give me an example? No one's here yet. You're in a safe place.
I'm not worried about that. I haven't been to therapy in 6 months. Fear of failure is a good one.
Yeah.
Fear of disappointing people. Fear of not being good enough.
Mm-hmm.
But it's always a sentence what are you afraid of is always relevant.
Yeah. Well, what you're afraid of really is what you're going to say to yourself at the end of that. So you're not afraid of not writing a good brief, because you really do believe that you're going to write good work. You're going to make something up that's probably very good because you're good at your job and you believe that. But you have this self-doubt that keeps you from doing it the way that you want to do it because you want it to be perfect. And so you procrastinate, you don't do it. And then when you hand it in, it feels like shit. And then when they say to you, this looks great, you're like, oh God, I really got away with something. All of that is thought process is perfectionist thinking.
Oh, well then I do that.
Yeah, I think we all do a little bit. Mm-hmm. And now we've got Mom.
Can you hear me? Hi, Jess.
I can hear you, but we can't see you.
Oh, why not?
It says start video, maybe.
I don't see. I don't have my glasses on. All I see is you.
At the bottom of the screen, it doesn't say stop or start video.
It's at the top. Here we go. But it's not there. I had to click on something.
Yeah. There you go.
Hello.
Hello.
There. Who else is here?
Lena Kate's here. Ben's
Hi,
here. Jesse's
Ben.
here.
Hello.
Hello.
Hey, Joe.
Hi.
You look adorable. Okay.
So I
What you dressed me today?
clients coming, and I'd really like to wait for them.
I know. Okay.
But it's 5:06, and I only have till 6 o'clock, so
Wow.
maybe we'll just wait one more minute. Let people. Is your mom coming, Beanie?
No, she's not.
But I think my dad was supposed to come too.
Oh.
But I sent emails out about this, so like all my clients said yes. And now no one's here. I know.
Natalie's on a beach.
Yeah, I know. So let me tell you what I did. She texted me last night and she's like, going with my boyfriend and his family. Her boyfriend's name is Adam. We're going with Adam's family tomorrow to the beach. So I don't know if I'm going to be able to make it, or like I'll try at 5, but we'll see. And I was like, don't, no pressure. And have fun on your Adam's family vacation. Snap, snap. I showed Ben and I was like, is this funny or is she not going to understand? And Ben's like, I mean, I love it, but I don't think she'll get it. So I sent it anyway. Get him on, Adam's family.
I'm sure she gets it. I'm sure Natalie gets it.
No.
Tyson, that sounds like exactly like a joke you would have made when you were like 9 or 13. Like, it's nice to see things don't change in a certain way.
You thought it was funny then, and you think it's funny now, so whatever.
Exactly. That's my point.
That wasn't the purpose, sis. That was not the point.
Ben thought it was funny. If he wasn't driving, he would tell you how hilarious it was.
I have a toggle switch on my Zoom call that says touch up my appearance.
Wow.
What did you do it?
I don't know. Do I look especially better now?
I
Am I touched up?
haven't noticed a change yet.
You look
Wait,
just
can you go back and forth?
Can you undo it?
Yeah. Okay, so this is me touched up. So, enjoy it.
Okay.
While it lasts. All right, now this is it off.
nothing.
What is different?
Look exactly the same.
Okay, perfect. I'll just leave it off
That
then.
button.
That's a stupid button.
Stupid button.
It must make somebody feel better.
That
Oh,
button.
maybe it's like a self-esteem thing. Like, touch you up. Oh, look, I didn't need to do anything because you're perfect as you are.
You're perfect. That's the way you are.
Thing.
Well, that's a good segue, and it's 5:10, so we have to get started.
All right.
Let's talk about perfectionism. So, I think most people think perfectionists are people who are perfect. People who do things like near perfectly. So, for example, people whose children are always perfectly well behaved, or people who are always dressed up very nicely, like moms who are put together very nice, and you see 3 children behind them, and you're thinking, how is she always so well done? Like, how does she keep everything together? You think that she's a perfectionist. And so you think to yourself, I need to be better. I need to be closer to her because she's perfect. Well, here's the thing is, that belief is actually what perfectionism is. Believing that there is a perfect and that you're just not there yet and you need to strive to be better is the definition of what a perfectionist is. It's not being perfect because, spoiler alert, nobody's perfect. But the belief that there is such a thing, and that if you just get better, you will be there. That's what a perfectionist thinks. That's perfectionism thinking. So let's go through some examples of how that shows up in your life. So if it shows up in one area, I don't have to tell you, it shows up in all of them. I know you've heard me say that before. One way that it could show up is at work. So if you think things like, I turned in this project and it wasn't ready, it wasn't good enough, and my boss loved it, so he must not know what he's doing. Or he must not have read it correctly. You're making excuses for why someone enjoyed your work because you know it's not good enough. So it couldn't be that. But your thought is, it must be that they have done something wrong to think that I am perfect. That's work. That's perfectionism at work. It also can show up in relationships. When we're in relationships, like, and not just husband and wife, but also friends, turn it on ourselves. We say, I should be a better friend. I should be a better wife. I should be a better girlfriend. And then, what is that sound?
Is that
Lucy's
Yeah, she's actively participating.
Jess, do you know where the mute button is?
Yeah. Yeah.
Bottom left.
interrupting my speech. Okay.
Yes.
Anyways, relationships. So we can also turn it on to other people. And unfortunately, it also comes out like, I wish my spouse were better. I wish that my spouse did this more. I wish that my best friend did this more. Because what you want them to do is fit your narrative. You want your beliefs to be everybody's beliefs. And because you don't think that things are good enough the way that they are, you're asking everybody else to get just a little bit better. So that's how it shows up in relationships. It also, this is a big one, and I think I've already decided that this is going to be August's topic, is body image. It shows up in body image all the time. When you step on the scale, if you say things like, I gained weight, therefore I failed, that is perfectionist thinking. Perfectionist thinking tells you that no matter what you have done, it's not good enough. And so even if you lose maybe, some of you, I'm not going to name names, text me when they lose 0.5 pounds because that's not enough weight to have lost in the week. And so even when you have succeeded, you think that you have failed. That is perfectionist thinking. It also shows up at home. This is a big one for me. I don't know if I told this story last time. I think that I did. But my story about finding and if not, then most of you know it probably. I saw the living room as dirty. And then I talked myself out of this belief that I was not a terrible housekeeper. And one day I walked into my house and it looked clean to me with my eyes. I looked out at the living room and said to my husband, what's different? And he said, nothing. Nothing is different. This is what the house looks like all the time. You just changed your thought. That's perfectionist thinking. So the point is, if I touched on some of those sentences that are in your brain in relationships, I probably touched on some of them in all the other areas. Because we don't just have perfectionist thinking in one area of your life, we have it in all of them. So what I'm getting at, really, the bottom line is, perfectionists believe that they're not good enough. And in order to be good enough, they have to achieve better things. So how does this show up in your life? Ways that it shows up are, like we already talked about, procrastination. So if you're at work and you think to yourself, oh, I'm not good enough, or the person next to me is better than me, you're probably not going to finish your work. And you're going to procrastinate to the very last minute and then do everything because you don't want to look at something that makes you uncomfortable. And it makes you uncomfortable to look at things that you're not confident about. So that is really driving me crazy, Mom. How do I turn that off?
What is it?
My God, you guys are texting each other back and forth and it's all showing up on my computer. Anyway.
Got it.
You can't hear it? You're looking confused, Jess. You can't hear it? Okay, I'll try to ignore it.
It's from Sybil.
I know.
I hear it. It's very loud.
Yes. Oh my God.
I will stop it.
I don't know how. Yeah, see? Let me, hold
It's
on.
not me. It's not me.
I'm going to turn it off.
Yeah. Just
somehow. But I don't know how to do it.
Mm.
Maybe if I X out of it, I don't know. Okay, well, anyway. So procrastination. Procrastination is one way that it shows up. We don't want to do something because we're not proud of the work that we do. So we wait until the last minute, and then for extra fun, we berate ourselves for procrastinating. So we procrastinate because we don't think our work's going to be good enough. And then we berate ourselves when our work isn't done on time. We always turn it in on time, of course. But when it's not done until the very last minute, we get mad at ourselves. It also shows up with inertia. Inertia is another way that it comes out because when you are sad and shameful and depressed, you end up under the covers. You don't end up creating things, writing things, involving yourself with people or relationships, making your relationship better, exercising, taking care of your body. You don't do any of those things when you're feeling shame. And so it really slows everything down. And what you think you're doing, motivating yourself and like, oh, if I just feel bad enough about myself, then I'll be thin, then you never get anywhere because it slows you down. You feel terrible about yourself, so you hide. Also, what happens is you get very, very critical of yourself and others. We think that people who are very critical are saying those things to us because they are just perfectionists. We think that they want everything to be exactly the way that it is. That's actually not true. What people who are doing when they're being critical of you are actually doing is being critical of themselves. They look at the world, they assess everything in terms of who's better and who's worse. And most of the time, they're worse. And they criticize based off of those things. Additionally, it creates controlling behavior. People want to control other people when they have perfectionistic tendencies because they want everything to be better. And they think if people would just listen to them, that it would be better. And so they insist that their spouse do things that would make them happier. This isn't good enough, so I need you to do this thing so that everything is perfect. Obviously, that's not going to work. So we try to control others, and of course we try to control ourselves. The whole body image thing is the best example I can think of. You want to be able to control your body, to shape your body, to make your body thinner or fatter or more muscular or leaner or whatever it is. And so because of that, you have all this control in your brain. If I just control what I eat, then I'll be happy. If I just control what I weigh, then I'll be happy. That doesn't work either. So it ends up, we focus on external things. Facebook is like perfectionist crack because you look at Facebook, you believe everything that everybody says, which is of course bullshit. Not everybody is that happy all the time, but you don't care because this feeds into your perfectionistic thinking. And so you read Facebook and you think, wow, they're so happy. I'm not as happy as them. I should probably stop looking at Facebook. That will be my solution. Facebook sucks. Again, if you just change your thoughts, we don't have to worry about this. You don't have to compare yourself to everybody. I changed the way that my brain thought about this. I am actively changing it. In the past 7 months now, I've been doing this. And I have become so much less critical of others, it's not even funny. The other day I went to the DMV and I had a lovely experience, which is unbelievable if you know me, I'm talking to my family. So all of you know, Jessie, when I told her this story, said, yeah, I've been to the DMV with you. Yeah. So I know that this is kind of out of the ordinary. I enjoyed every single person that I came in contact with that day. Instead of saying to myself, I'm not good enough, when something happened, I got curious. I said, how can I solve this problem? And as a result, I got through the whole thing unscathed and with a new friend, because Ben and I were so happy and jovial that this person just could not help but become our friend. It was pretty awesome. It was really, it's been a game changer, this stuff. And that's why I want to teach all of you guys, because I just can't believe the power of this stuff. When you come from a positive place and not a negative one, you get so much more done. And you're so much happier along the way. And I just want to teach the entire world this as a result, because I think it works. So that brings us to the bottom line. So the bottom line, which is, what we've been talking about, is the bottom line of the thought to perfectionism is I'm not good enough. That's really all it is. When you're like stressed out and you're all alone in your thoughts, if you have sentences like, I'm not good enough, that's where this comes from. So what do we do? Number one, we have to acknowledge something as a group, and that is, no one is perfect. I mean, we've been taught that since we were children. No one is perfect. And so this belief that one day we'll be thin enough where we'll allow ourselves to like ourselves is just cockamamie. That's not real. You're never going to get there. It's never going to happen. No one is perfect. So when you get on the scale or you look on Facebook and someone's better than you, it's important to remember that no one is perfect. And I'm going to let you in on a little life coach secret, because I'm a little bit more confident than I was 5 weeks ago. I have 6 clients now. And what I am learning in talking to every single person that I come in contact with about thought work and life coaching is that every single person has this thought. So that's really helpful for me, and that's why I'm telling you all of this. When you come in contact with someone that you believe is perfect, it is important to remember, 1, that no one is perfect, and 2, they have that same thought about themselves. I know that's hard to understand or to believe, but it's true. For example, me, a labor and delivery nurse at Johns Hopkins, believes that I got my job because my mother works there. Now, does that matter? Probably not. I mean, I've been working there 10 years. I've been a PSC, a secretary. I've been a tech. Now I'm a nurse. Like, I really have proven myself in the Johns Hopkins world. And yet, I still have this thought sometimes that is, my mom got me this job. I'm not really smart enough to work at Johns Hopkins, but I was given a pass. That's perfectionist thinking. And so you can see it on me. So I think that that's helpful to be able to see it in other people. So now that we know that perfectionism is bullshit, basically, how do we stop believing it? First of all, the bottom line is we have to accept imperfection, which is hard, but it is important to just sit with the fact for a little bit that no one is perfect, that you're never going to get perfect. You're never going to be perfect. It's impossible to be. And part of the reason that we love you is not because you're perfect, it's because you're imperfect. People don't love you because you're perfect. And you don't love others because they're perfect. So that's where I'm going with all of this, is another way to trick your brain into believing this and getting there faster is to think of other people. Every single person that I talk to, that I coach, that I talk to about thought work, says that they have more compassion for other people than they do for themselves. So my advice would be to start with other people and other things. For example, a pet. A pet is a great way, now this isn't gonna work for you, Mom, but a pet is a great way. Maybe get a bird, I don't know. A pet is a great.
I'll make one up.
Okay, I'll draw you a picture. A pet is a great way to practice accepting imperfection, because we just let them exist. Like, Rocky doesn't do anything. He doesn't contribute to the house. He actually makes it worse by existing. But I love him anyway because he's my dog. He is not perfect by any stretch, but I love him so much. And so that's where you can start. If you can't do it on a pet, Mom, you can choose a person. You could do.
I'll figure it out.
We just love Jessie because she exists. We don't love Jessie because she's perfect. She's not perfect. Maybe we should, okay, from the look in your face, maybe we should choose someone else.
No, I love it. I'm kidding.
You love her because she exists. You really, I mean, could you do anything, Jess, to make any of the people in this call not love you? No. And
I don't think so.
I know. So and look at me. Like, I'm doing this ridiculous thing and all of you have shown up on Zoom. Like, one day this is going to be huge, but all of you love me and are supporting me and are here because of that. So that is how we get out of our own head and out of our own way in terms of practicing this thought, is accept that imperfection is just the way it's going to be. You are never going to be perfect. Your brain won't let you believe that you're perfect. It won't, because you already believe that you're not. And remember last month when we talked about cognitive bias, your brain is only going to find evidence of things that you already believe are true. It's not going to find evidence of new information. That's not how your brain works. Your brain goes out looking for information that you tell it to look for. And if you believe a thing, that's what it's going to see. So every time you mess up, you think, God, I'm so stupid. And every time you do it right, you think, oh, man, came out of that unscathed. Whew. It's silly. So the last thing I want to talk about or mention, and really like kind of as a group, is like, do we think that wanting to be better, the effort to try to be better, is actually a good thing? I think it's something to really sit with for a while. Like, do we think that believing that we should be better, is that healthy? Is that a good idea? Because we just talked about all the things that it makes you do. It makes you procrastinate. It makes you look at other people and judge them. It makes you judge yourself. It makes you say horrible things to yourself. That's what comes from perfectionist thinking. I want you to want to be better because you want to be happy. And when we do things from a different place, I'm going to say this again, when we do things coming from a positive place, we get more done and we're more successful. When we are miserable, when we are shaming ourselves, when we are belittling ourselves, when we're saying, oh, you failed, you only lost 0.5 pounds, I can't believe you, what did you do this week? You're so bad, you ate terrible, this is all your fault. What do you do the next week? I bet you eat after you think terrible things like that. I bet you every diet you've ever started, when you say that to yourself, when you tell yourself those things, you fail in the end. You probably give up. You probably stop doing it because you're telling yourself terrible things. If you told yourself, you know what, the scale means nothing, that is just a tool that I am using to learn about how to lose weight if that is my goal and I like my reasons. But that's not what you're doing. You're saying I'm not good enough. So do we actually want to do that? Is that something that we want to strive for? Or we want to, that is our goal? Do you really want your goal to be better than? Because I think that you all are good the way that you are. And I think that that's a belief that you should adopt in order to show up more positively for your friends and family. And that's my speech. So I also sent you lesson 2, which I would love to talk about if you guys are willing to have a discussion about it. I don't know if anyone looked at it, but I sent you all a copy of it, which is describing good people and bad people. Did anyone do that?
It was a long time ago, though.
It was like a
week.
You
sent it like a month ago. No.
I sent it to you earlier than I sent it to everyone else.
I was going to say, I did it a long time ago.
Okay. So what I had you do is I had you name good behaviors and bad behaviors. So does anyone have any examples of good behaviors? Can we talk about some? We don't have any good behaviors.
I didn't work on it before, but I could come up with one now.
Okay, thank you, Lena Kate.
Good behavior would be treating other people respectfully and courteously.
I love that example because that's exactly why you want to believe this stuff, right? Because if you believe that, then you show up, you treat people better as a result. Believe that you are intrinsically like that you treat people well, then you're going to treat people better. Makes sense, right? So what's an example of a bad behavior? I can tell you mine. I remember what I wrote if you guys are shy. I said driving drunk was a bad behavior. I think we can pretty much all agree that that's a bad behavior, right?
Yep.
So what would you tell yourself if you drove drunk?
Ooh.
You're an idiot.
Right. You could have killed yourself. You could have killed someone else. You could end your career. Really terrible, terrible things. Now, what would you say?
Stupid.
That was stupid, right?
Stupid,
Now,
yeah.
what would you say if anybody else in this circle today called you and said that? If I called you and said, Mom, I feel terrible. I drove drunk last night. I'm having horrible thoughts. What would you say?
Thank God you're okay.
But would you shame me?
No.
How come?
Well, I would think that you'd probably done it already yourself.
Yeah. Exactly.
Right?
I think, personally for me, I think that, I agree with you. And I think that people probably feel badly enough about it that they don't need me to come in. They need me to support them because they probably feel terrible. So the whole point of the exercise is that you write down sentences that you would tell your friends when they do something negative, or your family when they do something negative. And when you do negative things, you practice those sentences on yourself. That's actually what I want you to do, is have more compassion for yourself. Because when you do, you show up differently. You take care of others better. And that's the whole point, is you're happier.
I feel like this is going to be hard with the whole perfectionist thing, because even when I'm just going to be honest about this, I don't know that I wouldn't shame you.
You wouldn't?
I don't know that I wouldn't.
Oh, you might?
I might.
Well, and
I might say, what the hell were you thinking?
Oh.
What?
What's that an example of?
Well, that's my point, is that we started talking about perfectionism and how you can't, you are more critical of other people when you have this idea that people are perfect.
Right.
Yeah, Jess, I kind of agree. Like, I think driving drunk seems like maybe a good, because it's a really extreme example of something where and I think maybe it's a kind of a good thing to think about, of like, I think I really would with anybody be like, what the hell? Never do that again.
Yeah.
I want to smack them in the face, like, that is such a horrible thing to do. But wow. I could see that if that wouldn't be productive, and
right.
That I would have because I think I have definitely what you're describing in terms of wanting to control things and feeling like I can when I can't in reality. But when you see someone do something so risky, to be like, I have to fix it. And to realize like I can't change another person. And maybe like a little bit of yelling at them, but there's even ways of kind of quote unquote yelling at somebody that is caring and not just straight up shaming.
So you would have compassion as well.
Well,
right, but I'd still have to yell at them. But probably if I did it from a place of compassion and understanding, it would get through to them better.
Go ahead, Mom.
My next thought was, what I would have said after that would have been, don't ever do that again, honey. Call me if you find yourself in that situation again. You know what I mean?
Right. But remember, we can't change behaviors in others. So those sentences are nice, but they're not going to help.
Oh, maybe that's just a mother's perspective. I don't
Yeah.
know.
Sure.
It sounds like it. Not that that's a bad thing.
No, it's not a bad thing. It's not a bad thing. It's just an example of critical tendencies. If we're saying to people like, you know, obviously you shouldn't do that. But I think we can all agree that we obviously shouldn't do that.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I picked that one because it's something that everyone agrees on. There are others that aren't necessarily, oh, look who it is. Speaking of Rocky, there are other ones that are not so obvious that not everybody agrees with, such as cussing. Like, some people would write cussing on a list of bad behaviors. Is that bad? I don't know. I mean, bad, the whole point of this is there's no such thing as good and bad.
Right.
There is neutral circumstances. That's it. And you make choices based on your thoughts about the circumstances. You make decisions about the circumstances with your thoughts. And because of your thoughts, then you have feelings, and because of feelings, you have actions. So it's not necessarily a bad thing to try to get to the reason of why that person got driven wrong. But also it's important to remember that, first of all, it's people's behavior. And Ben, can you mute? I think that's you.
Sorry.
All right. That we, first of all, can't change people's behavior. And secondly, berating people doesn't work. So instead, and again, we're not trying to fix other people. We're trying to fix ourselves. We're trying to not give ourselves such a hard time. So whatever sentence you need to tell yourself, I think that if you use positivity and curiosity, if you don't say to yourself, you're a terrible person, never drink again, that's not going to work. If you say to yourself, why did you drive drunk? Let's get really curious about what happened so that it doesn't happen again. That's how we solve problems. But in order to get to that question, you have to get rid of you're a terrible person, because you're never going to believe you're a terrible person and get curious.
So I'm still having trouble with this.
Okay.
And I think you and I have talked before about thoughts that we like and thoughts that we don't like.
Sure.
And how we do not have to get rid of thoughts that we like.
No, we don't.
Or that we should, you know, that we focus on thoughts that we don't like, and those are the ones we work on getting rid of first. But I wonder if one of the reasons that this is hard for me personally is because I wouldn't say I like the thought that people that drive drunk are bad people. I don't like that thought. But thinking that it's a really bad thing is something that I'm comfortable with. Like, I don't really want to change that necessarily. But like, if I thought of an example of things that I do that I think are bad, like losing my temper with the children.
Okay, great.
Parents that yell at their children are bad people.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
I think then I could start to find compassion for other people because that at least is a thought I want to change.
We do not want to change that you think that drunk driving is bad. That's not the intention. The intention is only to name bad behavior and you be comfortable with it, with performing it if you do.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. It just falls into a list of things that I just don't, and maybe it's, you know, Chris's family and stuff. It might just fall into a list of things that I just have a lot of trouble with. It would be the same if, you know, if your example had been vote for Trump or not wear a face mask in public. Like, fuck you, excuse me. But like, I'm not really sure I have any interest in finding compassion.
I don't want you to.
Quite yet.
No, that's never the point. The point
Okay.
is never to change your values. And that's not what's going to happen. But the idea that a circumstance doesn't affect you personally, that if someone doesn't wear a mask on Facebook at the grocery store, that shouldn't make you angry because it has nothing to do with you. That is a neutral circumstance that is not related. But you have a thought which creates a feeling, which is, this is bad. And so you get angry because you want to control it, because you want to define it, because you want to name it, all those things. And all that comes down to not feeling like you're good enough yourself. And so we have to criticize others. Yes, baby, you can talk.
I had a thought that I wanted to express to the group.
Okay.
We had talked recently, me and you, sweetheart, about the idea of safety feeling different with thought work being like the rubric we're coming from. And I could see, like Jesse just said, the idea of drunk driving being on a lot of people's lists of potentially bad behavior, and all the instilled things that we believe that puts that on that list for us. But the idea of appreciating, when you take a step back and appreciate that, the idea of safety, which we talk about driving drunk, that's an example of like potentially an unsafe behavior, potentially. The idea of safety being this fluid thing, like everything else in life is. There's no hard and fast or regimented things, and that everyone's perception, right, exactly, you know, and like everything else that is subjective, like most things in reality are, that's why certain things might be hard and fast for someone on their list, and it may not affect anybody else, you know?
Right.
And I think the more comfortable a person can get with thinking about things in this way will eventually lead to less internalization about specific things that were once upon a time on a certain list. Does that make any sense, what I'm saying?
Makes sense to me, but you know, you and I talk about this every day, so.
Yeah. I like that idea too, kind of pairing that with Tyson, what you were saying about being curious.
Yeah.
That seems like a good possible topic to be curious about. Like if you encounter something like let's say someone driving drunk, and then one thing to sort of be curious about is, oh, I wonder if this falls within the realm of safe for them, you know, as a possible thing that might be going on. That maybe
love that you're talking about safety, Ben. I love that you said that, because we have to keep in mind that safety is a thought. And I know that's hard, but safety is a thought.
Right. So if you recognize, just that's something, it's a type of thing to possibly focus on being curious and positive about, like, oh, interesting, this person may have a different thought, like their thought of what's safe is different than mine.
Yeah.
And that's different than being like, that idiot.
Right.
Probably more productive.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And the whole point behind it is to be happy. I'm not saying that you should change your values. I'm not saying that you should accept every single person that walks into your life. What I'm saying is, this is about you. This is about making sure that your baseline is about an 8 or a 9 in a happy scale. I've written a quiz for all of my clients, and I ask them at the beginning of every call, on a scale of 1 to 10, on average, how have you felt how happy have you felt in the last week? And on average, I get about a 6. I know. It was eye-opening for me. And the other day I said to Ben, can I give you my quiz just to see? And he said, sure. And I was like, on a scale of 1 to 10, how happy are you in any given week? And he was like, 10? Which, I don't know that that's normal either. But
Now, to be fair, I will say that this quiz comes at me months and months into her already diving into thought work and us discussing things. So I'm not the best candidate for this quiz, potentially.
You're saying thought work works? Is that what you're saying?
I'm saying thought work works for sure.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
Well, I would say, if you were to ask me that, I would say 9 anyway.
That's wonderful, Mom.
That's huge.
Yeah. I mean, life is good.
Really, that's a big deal.
It is.
Yeah, if you're saying 10, 10 is like the pinnacle of happiness.
It's perfection.
Right. Right. Well, when I described this to Tice, when she asked me, and I was like, I could see people that haven't worked on managing their minds to think that, well, I know I'm not 10 because nobody's 10. That's perfect. I'm not there. So then you're like, internally, you're thinking, well, let's say 9 is the cap then. So I'm probably not there because most people aren't there. And then you're starting at like 8 at a max. You know what I'm saying? You have all these reasons to push down what the top threshold could be, you know, for all the reasons that you think you shouldn't be happy or whatever it is, you know?
I guess.
I had another thought. If I could bring in something else, I'm sorry. Talk about safety again. I would think that a lot of categories that we see in our day-to-day life, especially ones that have like rules or laws, things that like, here's all this tangible proof why I should believe this is good and not bad. Because we love to have something tangible we can like read and see on signs. And like, that's like a give me, right? You don't have to think past that. Like all the rules that we're taught as children and as adults and forever about safety, especially, like it's really easy to fall into this mentality that if we don't do what's on the sign, we're bad. And I think that that's a really easy thing to cling to, which could make it harder to kind of separate that once you start diving in this way of thinking about it.
Yeah, I mean, you definitely need to fix that in thought, because that is a depressant, is thinking that you're bad.
Right.
In fact, my first day of nursing school, they pulled somebody up in front of the class, and she said, hold your arm out in front of you like this, right? And she said, I want you to think to yourself, I'm good, I'm good, I'm good, I'm good, I'm good. And so she said it out loud, I'm good, I'm good, I'm good. And the person tried to push down her arm, and she was unable to do so. And then she said, okay, now I want you to say, I'm bad, I'm bad, I'm bad, I'm bad, I'm bad. And she was able to push her arm down to her side. And that is just a tiny, tiny little example of what you do to yourself when you beat yourself up about stupid shit. Obviously.
Wait, sorry, Ben, can you just mute when Tyson's talking? I hear the feedback every time. Thank you. Sorry.
Thanks, Beanie.
You'd think the audio-visual guy would be better at this.
Oh, Ben.
Check out Hops, Grounds, and MASH, everyone.
We love you, Ben.
Oh, this is a safe space.
Whatever.
The point is, if you give yourself a break, you will treat others better, in effect. This is all about you. This is all about your happiness. I don't want you to start thinking drunk driving is good. That's not what I'm saying. I want you to have compassion for yourself. That's it. So let's go back to cussing, for example, because we don't all agree about whether or not cussing is good or bad, because there's things about cussing that could be good and bad, right? So like, is cussing in front of children okay? Is cussing at work okay? Is cussing in front of your friends okay? Is cussing in a group of people okay? Like, everybody's got a different manual when it comes to this, so there's no such thing as good and bad, right? And that's really the crux of all of this, is it's very much, that's why I call it all or nothing thinking. It's very much all or nothing thinking, and that's what perfectionist stems from.
And I think about the cussing thing, a lot of times if I hear in my head, like as a kid, maybe if I didn't hear this outright, but like somebody saying, what will they think if I talk like this? You know, what would this person think if I showed up and acted like this? And right there in that phrase is the whole point. Correct. You know, what would this person think? You have all this added pressure to it, as if you really know what this person would think about this, which you do not.
Right.
Even if they seem to say things like, I like this, I don't like this. Okay, fine. You'll never know what thought that person has. And the idea of adding pressure to yourself and trying to adjust your behavior or your thoughts based on somebody, waste of time, you know? But I feel like those phrases are what we keep hearing in our head all the time about things like language, especially.
Probably, yeah.
You're absolutely right, baby. I'm teaching you right. You're doing so good.
But I think it's also true that, especially for me, you know, I mean, I don't have any trouble with, using, profane language every now and then, but I do play to my audience. If I am at work, in front of people that I really don't want them to hear me use that, because I know what they'll think if I do, right? Mm-hmm. So you just temper. Okay, that's all I was going to say.
You don't know what people would think, though. You have no idea.
No.
Who is it? Is it Beth or Sybil?
Sybil just got here.
Sybil, come here. Let me see your face.
Come over.
I'm upstairs, but we're almost done. I'll be down in a minute.
See you soon.
Okay.
I'm just going to put you on mute.
Okay.
I'm going to put me on mute. Sorry.
Yeah, please do. So does anyone else have any questions before we wrap up? We have about 9 minutes.
I have one just little thing that occurred to me that
Great.
from the therapist I've met with, that like you were using that phrase of not being good enough.
Yeah.
And one thing I just realized is the phrase that she has used a couple of times is like when I've described certain feelings or situations, she said, it sounds like you think that you're not enough. And she doesn't use that word good.
Yeah.
And I was thinking about, it's sort of interesting to think about those two different phrases. And because I've thought about like, well, is there a difference between feeling like you're enough and feeling like you're good enough? Because in some ways, good is still kind of along that line of like, well, there's a perfect, and I'm pretty far along that road, which you don't want to be thinking about.
Right.
You don't want to be telling yourself you need to be a 10 and you're an 8.
Right.
So I kind of, but good can also mean something else, just like satisfied, happy, content. I just thought it was interesting of like two different phrasing of almost, or maybe the same exact idea, but sometimes I've used that phrase of like, I am enough. And that helps calm me down when I'm getting into some sort of critical like tangent.
That's great, Lena. Can
like,
you believe it?
Both about myself and about someone else, being, if I can just feel like I am enough.
Yeah.
I'm sufficient. I'm solid here. Then there's less of this need to go out and like nitpick other people or nitpick the thing I'm working on.
Exactly.
Well, and I like the idea, Bean, of taking the good, bad language out of it completely. I think that's a cool impact.
Yeah, if that's how, like if that's how, but I mean, good could also mean, the word good can mean sufficient, but if you think of it as like, somewhere along the lines of being excellent or better, maybe that could be problematic for you.
Sure. Yes, absolutely.
I think that kind of distinction is kind of proof that it's all thoughts in a way. You talk about syntax things, you talk about how things can land and how you choose to word something or the wording that you choose to accept. That's kind of like one level of choosing the good thought over the negative thought. Yeah. Or the thought, or if you think the phrasing I am enough serves you and the phrase I'm good enough does not serve you, so you do not give weight to that, is kind of the point. That's one of the ways of looking at this, I think.
For sure. Did anyone, like, when I was going through work, body image, relationships, like, I'm just curious, what were your, like, and did I hit on anybody? Did I trigger anybody? Or did any sentence you're like, oh, I say that to myself all the time? Or like, what area of your life did you notice the sentences were the most prevalent in your brain?
Well, this doesn't answer your question, but I'm going to say it anyway. So I'm not a good enough parent is a big one for me.
Yeah.
But something that I learned, or relearned probably yesterday, is that just admitting that I think that makes me feel better, because it becomes a sentence as opposed to a feeling. And that if I just write down, I'm not a good enough parent, I should be doing better, I can at least see it like a thing. It's no longer this power, this like cloud. And I didn't really get anywhere with it when I was writing about it, but it just it helped just to identify the sentence.
Because what you're doing is you're allowing everything. When we resist, we make an emotion stronger. And so when we resist emotion, it gets louder and louder and louder. Jesse, you said to me one time, if you don't listen to your brain when it whispers, eventually it will start to scream. And that's exactly what's true. If you have so much shame about the way that you parent, no matter how you parent, everyone here thinks that you are probably a saint when it comes to this thing, which is why it's so ironic that you're the one talking about being a bad parent is hilarious. To everyone else, I understand, but the point is that's exactly what we're talking about, right? Is like you beat yourself up, you give yourself such a hard time, and if you can accept that it's okay. Do you know what your thoughts are? Like what triggers you to have that thought?
Oh, I have a lot of them.
Well, you want to give us one?
Yes. They deserve better is a big one. Or like and then I get really specific from there. They deserve someone that genuinely wants to cuddle with them and they watch movies. They deserve a mother that ... is generally the beginning of all of those sentences.
Have you tried changing your thoughts around this?
I just figured this out yesterday, so I don't think so.
Okay. Well, writing them down is extremely, extremely helpful. Just allow everything, allow all your feelings, don't judge any feelings, because resistance makes it stronger. It makes those voices stronger. So that's cool. Anybody else?
Yeah.
I was just going to say, to tack onto that, the idea of journaling, kind of like what Jesse is saying, or writing anything, it's not making tangible what's in your head, kind of just through the process disempowers it, right? And like you said, Jess, if you have a phrase that's coming that you're thinking and you write it down, I think that's probably why I started writing songs, right? Like you have an outlet that is not only you like trying to categorize or just understand what you're thinking or whatever, if you just stream of consciousness, write shit, whatever it is. Also through doing that, the therapeutic nature of that is it's not inside you anymore.
Right.
You know, it's even if you still like feel it in some way, the idea that you're like siphoning it out, and be able to look at it makes it less powerful, you know?
It really is. And that's step number one. And then step number two is you go back and you read it and you try to find thoughts. Try to separate the thoughts from the facts, and you'll be able to write the story differently in your mind.
I think an example I could show that's different than that I experienced in the last few months. Me and my brother do not have a very strong relationship, and the narrative that I play in my head about TJ is X, Y, and Z, whatever the things are that I've built up in my head. And I was at my parents' house 6, 7, whatever it is months ago, and TJ showed up just randomly to stop in and shoot the shit for a few minutes. And immediately once I saw him, once we were in the room together, the narrative wasn't there at all. Because obviously the character to my head that he's playing is not the person standing in front of me. That's my brother, who I love and I know. Even if I have beef about whatever the thing is, like the point being that whatever the narrative that I've tried subconsciously or otherwise to form about him doesn't exist. And the proof it doesn't exist is because he's standing in front of me. I didn't write him. I didn't create him. He is this grown man who's my brother. And the idea of coming into contact with that physically really helps to dissipate all the energy. You know, now I don't see him consistently, but the point, I know that if and when I do hang out with him again, it'll feel similarly. And all the feelings I've tried to hone about him will be shown to me as just thoughts. And I can more easily separate the two things, you know?
Interesting.
Exactly, babe. You're doing such good work.
Tice, I just wanted to say in response to your question, I thought everything you said resonated quite a bit, and I followed it, and I think even compared with the last one, the first one we did, I thought your presentation was even like it resonated with me a little bit more. It was easier for me to follow, I guess I'll say. But there's one other just little thing that I've wondered about with perfectionism, just bigger picture, is like perfectionism as what we've been focusing on of like procrastination and criticism of ourselves and others. But then I think about it too, like just more in the work context of just like taking forever to write something or research something. And like, I feel like they're connected, but they also seem like two different kinds of perfectionism. And I don't know if that's part of this or not, you know, if these sorts of things of the trying to control things or criticism is why I take 2 days to research a simple legal question. You know,
it all comes down to the
or is it is it two different perfectionisms, I guess?
Yeah, I don't think so. I think it
That's
all stems from the same place, which would which would be, I'm just not good enough, or I'm not enough, whatever it is. And so you can't turn anything in, because then no one will like it, because you know it's not good enough. You know, that's
I guess that's true. Yeah, like thinking like, well, this can't be the right answer. I haven't looked into it enough.
Right.
I haven't looked at the right,
Well, and I don't know if I told you this last time, but my mentor was a lawyer and then became a life coach. And so the first thing that she did was teach lawyers for the first year or two of her coaching career, and now has turned it into teaching women. But I think of you all the time, because the first 6 months of her podcasts are all talking to lawyers specifically, and like the lawyer brain is what she calls it. And like, especially, you know, there's a nursing brain too, you know, every career has this. But the fact that you have to like write briefs, and like the high energy and like the high impact nature that you have in what you do is in and of itself scary. And then if you're a perfectionist, there's even more on the line, because if you write this thing and you fail, like, oh my gosh, what could possibly happen to a person?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So, but anyway, yes, baby.
I wanted to chime in about perfectionist thinking for a second, because talking about it in this context made me have a realization about my dynamic with my team at I Make Mobile. And I think potentially looking at it in this way, some of the issues that me and Aaron have had when it comes to like a thing, and it was in front of my face today when we're at Old Line, because the situation became, I'm filming stuff and, you know, he had ideas like, oh, let's try this. Cool. And then people started to show up to the outdoor bar that we were showcasing in this video. And I was like, oh, so we showed the whole place open, and it was like, we wanted to show the whole expanse of the place. And we were like, well, it'd be nice if people were here to show people enjoying it. And then people showed up. And I was like, well, I'm just going to go over there and ask people, like, hey, would you mind if I filmed you real quick? And you know, keep doing what you're doing, no big deal. And two things. One, I feel like I never would have done that before with the ease that I did it, and the confidence that I had behind me as I approached them and be like, hey, can I film you for just a couple seconds? You know, and then I shot the shit with them, and they were super cool. And I did that with everybody in the plaza, right? Really quick. And the other point that came to my attention was when I talked to Aaron today about a phone call I had yesterday about this new streaming service we're going to partner up with at some point in time. Aaron was like, man, I feel like you do that so well. Like that part of how you interact with people so well. And the reason that Aaron felt so compelled to say that, I believe now, is that he has a very specific realm of perfectionist thinking that in his mind prevents him from doing things like that. So when he and I work together on projects, I can just run and shoot and have my vision and do it. And it probably looks fine, right? And Aaron feels the need to still look at it. Like, let's have a back and forth. And once we've done the back and forth, then Aaron can say like, okay, now I can put my name on it. It's okay. So I feel that some of the energy shifts that we come across, where before this, I would feel very frustrated and feel like, am I not good enough? Is my edit not great? It has nothing to do with my edit. My edit's great, you know, and whatever Aaron says is great too. But because of how Aaron views it in this way, potentially, it could prohibit him from, in his mind, doing the things as expediently, perhaps, as he would like to, because of this method of thinking. I think that's something in there, part of it, you know?
Correct.
Yeah.
That's number one. And I was actually thinking about Aaron today when I was prepping this, because You guys go back and forth about Instagram posts. Like, should this word be this color? That's what we're talking about. And that, that is perfectionism at its best. Is like, we can't post this on Instagram until it's perfect. We have to make sure that all the wording is correct. And all of, like, what was the one about, if we say this word, then people will think that we're saying something negative?
I said, we were talking about, I think, the flavors of whatever episode it was a couple weeks ago. I wanted to use the word ridiculous. And I was like, man, these flavors are ridiculous. And he was like, could that be misconstrued? Could someone, and again, it's like, what would they think if we, nope. Now,
advertising and you say this is ridiculous, you're not saying this is terrible, you're advertising.
But and the thing is, when you strip back that layer, it's like, it has nothing to do with what word I am saying or not saying. Aaron wants to have something to work on, to overly work on, because in his mind, unless he does that, it's not good enough.
It's not good
in
enough.
some way.
Right.
Or something. He has to find some way to quantify what he's doing with the work.
Right. So accept that there's no such thing as perfect. Practice the belief that you being imperfect is okay. And you can practice it on others as well. And if you need help with this, call me. I would love to do an hour. And tell your friends also. But it is 6:07, so I'm gonna let everyone go. I have a bunch of nurses downstairs waiting for me for happy hour. I can't tell all of you enough how wonderful this is, and I promise you one day there's gonna be 100 people here, but then none of you will have to come, so. But I appreciate all the support. It means the world to me.
I appreciate it too, Tice. It's helpful to me.
Thank you.
I love seeing you guys.
Yeah, we don't just come for you.
Well, that's wonderful. We'll decide next month is body image, so I'll pick a date for August, and we'll talk about women, especially women, and what the culture does to us and our bodies and our body image, what we say to ourselves. It's intense. So that'll be next month's thing, and I'll send you emails and notifications all the time. But I love you all, and thank you so much for coming. Baby, I will see you when I'm done happy hour.
All right. I love you, and I love all the rest of you as well. I think this is an amazing thing.
Love you guys.
I think this is a great thing in general. Obviously, I'm supporting my wife, as we all are, but also I can't talk enough about how happy and alive I feel through doing this. Like just in the last few days, and since we've been doing this, like the last night, I know I'm trailing off right now. Last night, I was on the phone with Aaron and with Wes about all these projects we're doing, and all I'm thinking about is endless possibilities and how excited I am to be taking steps to do those things. And I wouldn't have felt about it in that way if not for how we're thinking and talking now. So I think even if whatever the percentages of supporting Tyson to doing this for ourselves, like, you're going to get something out of this anyway. And just being in the conversation is a great place to be, big and small.
Agreed.
All right. So that's,
I was just going to say I love you guys.
I love you too, Jess. Let's see the baby one more time.
Oh, well, yeah. Here. I'll stand up so you guys can see him. There he is.
Look at the baby.
There he is.
He's so big.
I know.
I can't wait to see you.
Me neither.
All right. Well, I have to go, but I love you all.
Okay. Love you too.
All right.
Love you all. Bye.
Bye.